Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ followers perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with KD Smooth at One Brothas Mind. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's KD Smooth coming back at you with a new report. I pray you all are doing well. Shalom, family. In today's report, we're going to discuss this issue on your screen. Autism therapy cuts in Indiana and possibly in your state. Okay? In summary, family, in Indiana, the state has cut the funding for specialized autism therapy. It's called ABA therapy. They cut the funding from a payout of $90+ per hour down to like $68 per hour. And many parents of autistic children here in Indiana, of course, they're going through it, y'all. We're going through it here. And if your state is doing this as well, or looking to do this, it's going to be a problem for many parents where you are. The primary problem, well, before I get into that, before we start, if you appreciate our content here at One Brothas Mind, please remember to smash the likes, share this report on all your social media with all your peoples, and be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information, truth, and facts you need. Okay. The primary problem with this cut in funding is, for example, previously Indiana, the state of Indiana was paying $90+ per hour for ABA therapy for autistic kids. So the ABA therapy providers would receive from the state that payout, and that $90+ amount per hour was enough for the providers to cover their cost of providing the therapy, as well as paying their specialized trained staff, a wage that the staff, they could retain staff. Okay? With this cut in funding, this drastic cut, all of the providers are now either one or two things or both. They're either not able to afford to pay their specially trained staff and retain them for this type of therapy, or what's actually happening to most families is the autistic kids that were receiving therapy under the previous payout amount, the hourly rate of $90+ an hour, those autistic children's ABA therapy is basically being canceled by those providers. Why? Because those providers, with the cut in the payout, are unable to pay the specialized trained staff and cover their cost with the lower payout amount. So a lot of kids in Indiana, a lot of autistic kids are literally, and their families, they're losing their therapy. Now, this has far-reaching effects because under the previous payout amount, many autistic kids were able to receive, in many cases, full-day therapy or full-day ABA therapy, okay? This is more specific for ABA therapy, okay? So their parents, while their child was receiving full-day ABA therapy under the original payout amount, many parents were able to still work their jobs, okay? Because their child was in a physician-ordered therapeutic environment. Full day, meaning, for example, from like 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 or whatever. Very similar to the normal school day, okay? Except these autistic kids were receiving ABA therapy instead of being at regular school. So with that therapy cut, basically their therapy has been canceled, is what the state of Indiana has done, okay? So with their therapy canceled, the parents of most of the kids who were receiving ABA therapy now are left with extremely limited options, okay? They now have just really only like a couple options, maybe, well, one is not even an option. Either their child cannot receive ABA therapy anymore at all, and the parents have to enroll their autistic child into, like, for example, the regular public school system in your area or here in Indiana. That, I frankly, I have to be frank, family, here from One Brothas Mind, that is an absolute nightmare option. That's not an option. It's not my recommendation here at One Brothas Mind. Why? Because even though the public school system proclaims that they have experienced teachers and staff when it comes to special education students, the reality is, and I learned this by experience, family, the reality is they don't. 99%, and I'm not exaggerating, of the staff and teachers in the public school systems have basically zero or extremely limited experience working with and teaching autistic children. Okay? In short, family, they basically attempt to teach all special needs students pretty much the exact same way. They got kind of a cookie cutter approach. Here in Indiana, I can speak to this directly because this is where Katie Smooth is. Basically, most of the public schools special ed programs and classes are set up where if you enroll your child's going to be in a class with anywhere from 5 to 6 or up to as many, maybe 10 to 12 other special needs students with a variety of different special needs. And because the classrooms and schools are underfunded, of course, there's one teacher who's quote unquote trained in special education. Okay. And that teacher has more of a, more of a general education in regards to being a special education teacher. In other words, that teacher has studied the whole spectrum of different types of special needs or special education. They don't have a focus study or training, like with autism or with Down syndrome or with whatever. You follow me? So basically, they got kind of a general, throw everything at you kind of training for special education, and they give them their certification and go, okay, you ready? No, you're not. They don't specialize in any specific type of special need. I think y'all get where I'm going. Okay. So because of that, again, the public school systems, most of them follow a basic cookie cutter approach to even special needs. And it's basically the same approach that they follow with all public school students. It's just they modify it very slightly. And the slight modification is this: whereas normal students are in a 45-minute or an hour class for that whole hour, and they're getting teaching and instruction from one teacher, regular classroom. Okay. Here in Indiana, particularly, and maybe in your state, the special needs classroom is set up with one teacher, the same as the regular classroom. But because each student in the special education classroom can have a very different actual special need, the teacher specifically has to go to each student one by one and spend anywhere from 5 to maybe 8 minutes of focused teaching time or working with your student by themselves, while the other special ed or special needs students just are waiting their turn, basically. And so the teacher goes just in a rotation, one by one, goes from one special needs student to the next. Now, they do kind of get somewhat familiar with each student and where each student is kind of with their learning, what their needs are. They get familiar a little bit with that. But again, they're not specialists. That's extremely important, family. So the teacher just goes through the students one by one. So in most cases, your student during a class time of 45 minutes or an hour is really only getting about 5 to 8 minutes of actual teaching and instruction where the teacher is working with your student. That's all they're getting in each class. 5 to 8 minutes at most. And if the class sizes, if it's more students in there, the less time individually they're going to get to work with the teacher. Okay? Now, in many cases, some schools have teachers' assistants also in the special needs classrooms. And basically the teacher assistants are doing, for the most part, the same thing that the teacher is doing, going from one student to the next. So again, about 5 to 8 minutes of actual teaching and instruction time that your child is going to get, maybe a few minutes more if the teacher assistant kind of follows behind, or they kind of tag team and whatever, however they would, but at most it's only 2, a teacher and a teacher's assistant, which is still extremely limited amount of actual education time and work time with your specific student. Okay. And of course, public schools do not provide any type of therapy or ABA, nothing. All right. So with that, your student is really not going to get much. Most autistic students are not going to really get much from being enrolled in public school. And in fact, for most of them, it's going to be to their detriment, because frankly, family, many of the teachers, they shouldn't be teachers. Many of them are mean. They're disrespectful to your students and even verbally abusive to many students. I've literally experienced this personally, firsthand, not with my autistic son, but during the predator situation. And here at One Brothas Mind, what we call the predator is that thing we can't talk about on YouTube that was deleting millions of people over the last 3 years or so. That was, making everybody sick and all that. I think y'all know what I'm talking about. We call it the predator here. Well, during the predator, when the schools went on virtual school, I literally firsthand got to witness the virtual special ed classes that my son was in. And I literally, with my own two eyes, witnessed one of their teachers be verbally abusive and threatening to a special needs student. And I reported her. She was mean as hell. And to be specific, in case someone don't know, basically that was the kids or the students, special needs students, were at home virtually, sitting in front of their computer. So in the home environment, there's a lot more that could be distracting, to the students. So there may have been a need for many students for additional redirecting, get their attention back, because the teachers are going from one student, then to the next student, then to the next student. So while they're with student A, all the other students are just kind of sitting there. And especially autistic students, they're going to put their attention and focus on something else, whatever it is. And so there was one other student, I don't know if he had like a little gaming device or something, a tablet or whatever it was. From time to time, while he was waiting his turn, he would, I guess the teacher could kind of tell by his eyes that he was now looking at something else and not the screen while he was waiting his turn. So when she came to him, she had to redirect him from time to time. But as a special needs student, teacher, that should be expected, right? But she would, in my opinion, she would holler at him, make his experience a bad experience where, in my opinion, that student didn't even want to participate in the class with her because she was mean to him. I mean, she would bark at him like, put your game down, and you're not supposed to have it. I'm gonna woo. I mean, she would go on and on and on, and then like ask him to read something or whatever. I'm like, who that? Man, I was like, out. I wish a Karen would talk to. Is this what? And my son had her class. If classes were still in person. So I'm like, ain't no way in hell I'm sending my child back to a class with a teacher like this. So, like I said, I reported her and what she was doing. I don't know what they did with it. Most likely nothing. I had no way of communicating with that student's parent, directly to let them know what was really happening. I could only hope that student's parent was there also, like I was, sitting beside my student, watching and listening and helping their student navigate the situation. So that was the kind of virtual details of what that situation. But oh man, public schools are absolutely horrible when it comes to special needs students, especially autistic students. Now, are there some autistic students their level of autism is not as severe and they're actually able to find a school and actually excel and do well, whether they're in special needs or in regular education classes? Absolutely. So if that's your student and your student would probably do well there, go for it. But if you're listening to this video, your student is most likely already not enrolled in public school currently, because of that, because your child needed more therapy versus actual academic education. So now you're being, as a parent or parents, you're being forced to switch. So ultimately, there's a bunch of autistic students that actually need and were benefiting from ABA therapy. They're now being forced into, if you will, in this example, the public school system that has no clue, no idea. They don't know nothing about what they're doing with autistic students. So with that is why I say the public school option for most autistic students, especially those that were receiving ABA therapy, is an absolute nightmare. I don't recommend it. Please don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Now, you're listening to me going, okay, Katie Smooth, well, what? We don't really have no other option. Well, there actually is one other option, and I want to share that option with you. It's not, necessarily the best, for your child, it may be the best option, but for you, not so much. And it's a difficult option to make happen. Okay. But it is doable if you're willing and capable to make some adjustments and sacrifices for your autistic child. Okay. Like I said, in addition to the public school systems options here in Indiana and in my opinion, most everywhere else, our students, our so-called black students, are actually in danger in their schools, family. There's actually a recent report that came out just a few weeks ago. I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat or in the comments, I think it was out of Florida, where there was an autistic student, or so-called black autistic student, and they showed video of him, being triggered. And the way most of the media sources, the mainstream media sources reported it, he attacked a teacher. When that was a bold-faced lie. Okay? And they pressed charges against this disabled child. Now, the truth of what happened was this. That teacher, and I've heard other varying reports, or another teacher that was involved in that situation, had actually triggered that child. For whatever reason, and trust me, some of them do it on purpose, family, because they're just devils. But either way, a teacher had triggered that child by way of either taking a device that the child really enjoys and loves to have and use away from them just abruptly, or they had promised that child that he was going to be given the device to use as long as he completed his whatever schoolwork task that he needed to complete it. And he did it, and then when he went to go get the device or asked for the device, they just abruptly changed it, basically said no, he can't have it, when they had already promised it to him. You can't do that to autistic children either, because whether you're taking something away or you've promised something and not delivering it, those types of things trigger extreme reactions and stress and all kind of emotions in most autistic children, regardless of age. You can't play games with them like that. Okay? And so the young child was triggered. And so he, some, like, for example, in that situation, most of the time my son would just start jumping up and down real fast, and making the sounds that he makes, no, that type of thing, holding his ears, and because he's upset, and he's like, what, this is not right. You took my thing, or you promised, or whatever. They're gonna get triggered. And some autistic kids are gonna have a full out breakdown where they're literally on the floor, rolling around, screaming, everything. That's why you just cannot do that. You have to be, if you had the experience, or if you were a therapist, you would know what I'm saying. You can't do that. You have to communicate and be fair with autistic children, and give special care. That's why they're called, at least in public schools, special needs. Okay? So, like I said, they literally are pressing charges against this autistic so-called young black boy. He looked like he was actually a pretty nice sized young man, but he was just somewhere in his teens, early teens or whatever. But this lady's all messed out, laid out on the floor, like she's being beat down by a whole gang, street gang or something. And again, they reported the story, but they lied or omitted the information that I just shared with you. Those teachers, or that teacher, had triggered that child. And you can't do that. And again, that's an example of their complete and utter ignorance when it comes to managing autistic children in the public school systems. But just like here with this law change for us in Indiana, they're leaving most parents, seemingly no other option. So now you thinking, there's nothing else I can do. I got to enroll my child in the public school systems, and you're not there with them. The people that they're in their hands, most of them have no experience. They don't specialize. They don't know what they're doing. And of course, many of them are flat out devils, family. And they're doing all kind of stuff to our children and getting away with it. And a lot of autistic children are nonverbal. They can't even tell you when they come home something's happening to them or something's being done to them. Yeah. There's a gang of stories that's come out over the months and years. Especially if you're a parent of an autistic child, I'm sure you've seen most of them. So again, the public school system, in my opinion, here at One Brothas Mind, is absolutely not the option. It's actually the worst, most dangerous thing you can do with your autistic child, unless they are on the high functioning end of the autism spectrum, and basically you already had them in school, and regular school, and they were doing well. Which, again, that's not the specific autistic children we're talking about here today. We're talking about the ones that are just had their therapy canceled by the state of Indiana. Okay, their ABA therapy. So, with that being said, here's the other option, family. Homeschool. Yeah, I know. Before I get into explaining this option to you, family, number one, whether you're here in Indiana or anywhere else across the country, and because of this type of cuts and what have you, you're considering the option of homeschool, which I highly recommend for your autistic child. Okay? before I do that, it is required, family, that you do your research. You gather information for whether it's Indiana or your state on everything that I'm about to share with you. You put it all together and ultimately look at all your information and see if you feel it's going to be possible for you to homeschool your child. Because there's a lot to it, family. Okay? There's a lot. Okay? It's not going to be easy. I can tell you that right now. So, before we get into this explanation, again, if you appreciate our content here at One Brothas Mind, smash the like button. Share this report on all your social media with all your peoples. And be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we bring you the information and facts you need. Okay. First off, if you're going to successfully homeschool your child, especially if you're a single parent, there's a very strong possibility you're going to have to stop working. Unless you got some other levels of support available for you specifically, say, for example, if many people are divorced, so if one parent or the parents work different shifts, like one works day shift, one works night shift, something like that, and you guys can exchange your child so that your child is at home the whole time, and then while you're working, say as the custodial parent, he's with the non-custodial parent, your child is with the non-custodial parent, and then when the non-custodial parent has to go to work, they bring your child back to you, and now you're at home and off work free, and you can go ahead and spend the time, even if it's only an hour or two each day, each school day. That's way more education time that you are spending and working with your child than they're getting in the public school system, than they're ever going to get in the public school system. Okay? And you're giving your child one-on-one instruction and education work. Do you see that? So if you spend an hour working with your child's getting that whole hour of learning, not just 5, 8, or 10 minutes worth per day or per class. Do you see that? So for that reason, it's why it's so much more of a better option for your child. Your child's going to do, in most cases, way more learning from you than in this situation than they're ever going to get in school. In fact, most of the schools, they're going to spend that 5 or 8 minutes with them, and then they're going to start, even special ed students, they give them little tests in front of them to see what they've learned, knowing good and well they have only been spending minutes per day with them. So the child hasn't really learned, most autistic kids hasn't really learned much. So they're going to fail those tests. And then the school and the teachers are going to tell you, well, your child just can't, this is something they just struggle with, and they can't really get this. They're not going to really get this. So we have to move on, and we're required to move on to the next subjects, the next topics, and try to introduce those things to your child. So whatever it is, your child may never be able to do basic math. So, or basic addition or subtraction. We got to move on to the next thing. We got to start showing your child division or multiplication. We're like, wait, what? You can't just move on. My child hasn't understood addition yet fully, or whatever the case may be, which is basically exactly what the school district here for my child, me and my child, this is exactly what they were trying to do. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to try not to get into a lot of the details of my experience because I got a testimony, y'all. But anyway, I'll give you a little bit more in a moment. But the homeschooling option is so way much better for our children. Okay? Just is. For most of our children, it is. So, with that being said, the question is, again, as I started off with the option of both parents taking turns and you guys transporting your child back and forth if you're divorced, if you work split shifts, that type of situation is an option as long as the other parent is fully willing to participate that and gets the value of that. That would be great. That would be an ideal situation. But a lot of us family, frankly, are just single parents or single moms. And you trying to go to work your job every day, and now you're like, my child can't get therapy no more. What else can I do? I gotta work. Well, yes, but maybe not. There may be this option, a homeschool option, that you can potentially set it up. And I want to provide you here in this report some of most, if not all of what you would need, the research information that you need to gather, fully understand the things you will probably need to do to actually do this successfully as a single parent. Okay? That's the key. One of them is you may have to relocate. You literally may have to move. Family, mama, yeah. And specifically, you may have to move into a significantly lower cost. So if you live in an apartment, you may have to move to a significantly lower cost apartment, or possibly even a Section 8 apartment. Okay? But basically something that's significantly more affordable for you based on what income you will ultimately have if you stopped working. So you can still have income, but it's going to be less than, in most cases, than what you're used to. So that's why in most cases you're going to have to relocate. You're going to have to downsize your cost of living significantly. Okay? So, yeah, I know, mama, I know, but it is doable. It is possible, and I'm going to show you here as we go forward. Okay, so let's look at it. Matter of fact, let me turn this little ticker off. There's a news report, of course, available on this story and whatnot, but local news media here on YouTube, or either it's them or it's YouTube just tripping. They throwing copyright flags if we share with you guys the actual clip of the news report. You know how these devils are, but you can do a YouTube search if you haven't seen it. You can find Indiana Autism Therapy Cuts. You'll find it. I'm sure all of the channels have done a report on it. Okay, so here on your screen, if for most of us, especially single parents, if you may be married and one parent may have to stop working or go part-time to do this successfully, which is going to affect your income, your household income. So if you're married, you got to sit down, plan that out, and see what, if any, adjustments to your standard of living you guys are going to have to make, which could include you guys may have to relocate to a lower cost apartment or whatever. Okay, but for most single parents, most single moms, if you want to really get at this homeschool option and you don't really have the support of the other parent like that, to do it successfully, most likely you're going to have to stop working, because if you don't enroll your child in school, your child is at home all day and you're going to have to be there with them. Okay, stay with me, mama, stay with me, just hear me out. Okay, but absolutely, if you are considering this homeschool option that I'm sharing with you, here at One Brothas Mind, I recommend that you have at least 6 months worth of savings saved. In other words, you can continue to pay your rent and maintain your expenses for 6 months at least by yourself without you working. Okay? Can you do it with a little less than that? Yeah, but it's going to get real scary. I did it with, actually I had that 6 months, but I ain't gonna get into that yet, but it's doable. But at least 6 months, maybe 5. The reason you need to have a significant amount of savings saved up is if you're going to do this, you're going to have to, and you stop working, you're going to need to still pay your rent and pay, your bills and everything, provide for you and your family. So you're going to need that money. And while you're using your savings to survive, you're going to be applying for all kind of other assistance and income options. Okay? And it's going to take, for many of them, it's going to take anywhere from 2 to 3 months to get those other assistance options set up and working for you fully. So that's why during that time of setting all those other income options up for you, you need to have money saved. I don't recommend you're keeping your money in the bank for many reasons, but even in this situation, have that money saved, and it's best, or my recommendation, you have that money in your pocket or somewhere with you, wherever you decide to keep it instead of in a bank. Because also when you sign up for some of these assistance things, they check, of course, your bank records, okay? Or they'll ask for them. All right? So go with that first. And again, third, you may have to relocate. When you stop working, even if you got 6 months worth of savings saved up in your current, say, apartment, you may need to relocate as soon as possible to a lower cost apartment, because that will make your savings last longer. If you get into a low enough cost apartment or living option, your 6 month worth of savings may last you 8 months. Who knows? Do you see that? All right. So the day you decide, after you've done all this research on the rest, everything that I'm showing you here, and you've gathered all your information, specifically how things will be for you and your child specifically. Once you gather all that information and you looked at it, again, you're going to realize for many of you, you guys are going to have to stop working. And yes, I did. That's why I've done this. Everything on your screen, I've done. Okay? I'll share that in more detail here in a moment, but I want to get through the rest of these. Okay. The day you stop working, or the week you stop working, if you're going to shoot for this one, after you've done all of your research and gathered all your information, you need to apply your child for SSDI, or Social Security Disability Insurance, okay? With the Social Security Office, the federal Social Security Office, not no local office, federal Social Security, okay? Now, as a part of doing that, the Social Security Office is going to require that you provide a recent doctor statement that confirms your child has a permanent disability. Okay? Autism is a permanent thing, so that shouldn't be hard or difficult to get, okay, from your child or from your child's doctor. Okay? As long as you get that document and turn that in with your application for Social Security disability for your child, then your child can start receiving, with you not working, a full max payment Social Security disability payout. And here in Indiana, it's somewhere between $700 to $800 and some dollars monthly. Okay. In addition to that, you got to do your research. You may, as a parent, as the non-working parent, the full-day, full-time care provider, you may also qualify for a disability, Social Security disability payout or check for providing full-time and full-day care for your disabled child, which is a different document that you would need to get your doctors to fill out, that where your doctor confirms that you are the full day, full-time care provider for your child, ultimately confirming why you're not working. Okay? And you turn it in and you submit for SSDI as the full-time care provider. And in many cases, I would argue most, you too, mama or daddy, as a single parent, would also get and receive a monthly SSDI check. And most of the time, it'll be the same amount that your child is receiving. So if your child is receiving $800 a month and you go through this process and it gets approved, you also could be receiving a second payout or check monthly for SSDI of the same amount. So total from SSDI, you could be receiving, say, approximately $1,600 a month, cash, not working at all. Okay? So that's a start. Then you should immediately also, when you stop working, apply for Medicaid here in Indiana or in your state. Because you guys are still going to need health care coverage. And with you not working, that's the primary source where you would get health care coverage. Medicaid and TANF. Apply for everything. Right? Now, here in Indiana, TANF has a work requirement where you have to be looking for a job to receive TANF, or what they used to be called welfare. Okay, fine. But remember, you already went and got that doctor's statement that confirms you're the full day, full-time care provider for your permanently disabled child. So that doctor's letter, like the TANF office here in Indiana, and it may be the case in your state, they have their own form that they would give you. If you ask them about it, you have to ask them. They ain't gonna just hand it to you. You have to say, I'm a full day care provider. Is there a form I can turn in or need to turn in regards to why I can't work? They're required to give you that form. You take that form to your child's doctor, and again, your child's doctor can fill that form out and write a letter, which I would also recommend, or just like a statement that confirms together that you are the full day, full-time care provider for your permanently disabled child. And that's why you can't work or should be. You don't have to say, well, he can say that's why you're not working and leave it at that. And then when you turn it in, that doctor statement and confirmation is what will exclude you, say here in Indiana, from the work requirement. Okay, to receive TANF if you qualify for TANF. Okay. Again, family, I'm not just shooting hot air. at you. I've done all of these things successfully. Okay. And unfortunately, being a man applying for all this stuff, they discriminated against me so bad, y'all. They took me through hell, but I still eventually got everything I needed and that I qualified for set up and operational. Okay. So I've already spoke about the doctor's permanent disability paperwork or letter or statement for Social Security. You can use that same document and provide it to the local Medicaid, TANF, SNAP office. And it should be the same or something very similar in all other states, okay? In addition to the local offices, assistance offices, they have a special form of their own. Same thing, the doctor, you take it to your doctor as soon as possible and they get to fill that out and turn it in. That confirms, like I said, you are the full-time, full-day care provider for your permanently disabled son. And you just turn it back into your local assistance office. Okay? And right after you do those things, or the same week you did these things, you go and apply for every kind of utility assistance. You also apply for SNAP benefits, as well as, if you need to, Section 8. Say you thinking, based on the information you gathered, you kind of have an idea of how much monthly income. Let's say you're getting your autistic child is getting an SSDI payout monthly, and you put those numbers together, you're like, okay, and you kind of get an idea of what kind of income you would have. You'd be like, you may say, I can't afford how much the apartments are costing right now. Even, a one bedroom is still going to be too much. If that's what the determination you come to, then definitely go and apply for Section 8 as well. Immediately, that same first week. You got to apply for all this stuff, gather all this information as fast as you can, and get it submitted as fast as you can. Because remember, you only have about 6 months worth of savings to carry you until you're going to run out of money. And you don't want to get there still wrestling with setting these things up. Okay? So if after doing all your research and gathering this information that I'm providing, you're able to successfully do all of this in the first week that you're not working, within a month or two, you should be able to have all of these things set up and paying out and working for you. So that then, now all you got to do again is worry about if you need to relocate, those types of things. And like with SSDI, and as well as any of the local assistance programs, you do have to inform them if and when you relocate and things of that nature. Okay, those types of things are required as well. With the exception, of course, if you actually get approved for Section 8 pretty quickly and they set you up with a place, they already know where you're located as far as local. But you would have to definitely still provide that relocation information to the Social Security office. Okay? So basically that's what you have right there, family, is this combination of assistance is available for you if you, as the single parent, are not working. But you have to not be working. You can't be working and go apply for this stuff and they say, well, I'll quit once I get approved. No, it don't work that way. You have to not be working. Okay? So this is, I hope, some helpful information. If you're one of the parents right now in Indiana, I mean, this cut just happened within the last couple of days here locally. So I know a lot of parents are scrambling, trying to figure out what to do or what their options are. But there is this homeschool option. But of course, nobody really provides you with all this information so you can kind of at least explore the option to see if it'll be a good fit for you after doing all your research. You definitely check with the Section 8 office when you apply and see approximately how long it's taking for Section 8 to be approved or not, to receive a notice. That plays a role in, how long your 6 months worth of savings, how long you can survive. Okay. So now, with that all being said, family, I successfully did this with Yahuwah's help, some additional grace and blessings and miracles came my way as well. And I did this successfully. As I speak to you, I'm not working. I don't have a job. And I provide full day care for my autistic son. And I'm homeschooling. Okay? As we speak. Okay? One big key factor is whether or not you're going to be able to relocate into a significantly lower cost, say, apartment. You got to do that. I know a lot of us don't want to live in certain neighborhoods or whatever. I get it. But if you can find an apartment on the very low end of what apartments are costing right now, that's going to help your savings last you and help you guys survive long enough for you to get all these things, all these assistance programs set up so you have the ability to homeschool your child. Okay, especially Section 8. Typically, that takes several months, not just a couple, but like 4 to 6 months at least, if not longer in some areas. So do your research, find that information out on the timing, the average timing of Section 8 in your state, your city. You got to do all this research before you just jump out there and do it. Because if you just jump out there and do it, and especially if you ain't got a good amount of savings saved up to carry you, I do not recommend it. I just don't. You may get it done, but it's going to be very, very difficult and stressful, to say the least. Okay? But again, I successfully did it. Now, a little bit more information on my story. When I was going through this process, after having done my research, I had a unique situation in my life where after I had stopped working, well, take that back. Before I had stopped working, I had one of my last remaining parent, my mom, had passed. Okay? And I was still living in my apartment that I had when I was working. But my mom had passed, and one of my brothers were handling all of her business. Okay? And it just kind of worked out to where right before I was literally getting ready to relocate into a smaller apartment or rental unit, a much lower cost rental unit myself, and having already applied for Section 8, but again, it takes some time to get a response for that. I got a contact from my brother that was handling our mom's business, and long story short, I inherited a property, my mom's property. completely unexpected, completely out of the blue. Um, and actually at first I didn't even fully want my mom's property because it's the property that I was raised in. It's the home that I was raised in. And initially, I couldn't, my mom had just passed, and I got a whole lifetime or had a whole lifetime of memories in my mom's home where I was raised. I couldn't even stand inside my mom's home without losing it. Personally, I just couldn't. So because of that, I didn't even really want my mom's home or property. And at best, when my brother and I had the discussion, I was like, at best, maybe I can rent it out and use that as an extra income source for myself, especially with what I had set up and was trying to do. I definitely could use more income at the time, all of that. But long story short, it ended up working out where, over time, as the saying goes, time does heal pretty much all wounds. I got to a point where I wasn't breaking down anymore when I was inside my parents' home where I was raised, and I was okay. It totally caught me by surprise when it happened, but eventually I was okay enough with it, and that eventually moved me to the point where, as of today, I'm actually residing in my parents' home. I inherited, and that provided me with probably the lowest cost place to live for me and my children. And I have two. I'm a father of two, divorced father of two, with custody, and I've been raising my children. Yeah, Katie Smooth's been raising my children by myself since they were 2 and 3 years old. Okay? And they're grown now. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 19. Okay? Y'all's good. Do you hear me? I'm not gonna go into anymore because I won't be able to keep it together, y'all. I can't do the testimony thing. So I hope y'all understand. I hope y'all hear me. Y'all have been good to me. Okay? All right. With that being said, family, for the first time anywhere out here in these social media streets, I'm gonna share with you a short clip of me and my autistic son doing our homeschooling at home together. Okay? So it's going to be really short. I got the sound maxed up because for whatever reason my sound on this video seems to be pretty low. So I maxed it out. So I'm hoping you guys are able to hear it. Yeah, that's my dude. My main dude right there on your screen. And I'm going to play this little clip. I'm probably going to play it a couple of times because it's real short, but you just listen closely, turn your volume up, and you'll should be able to hear everything that we're doing and get the point, okay? Just a brief description. We're working on my son's math skills. And like I said before, or his basic math skills, like basic addition. Yeah, my son, that's kind of where he's at even at 19. Because he was in ABA therapy for 14 years, not receiving academics. So when my ABA therapy for my son, when his therapy stopped, I tried and explored the public school option, just like many of you are looking into or considering. We tried it. I already explained that. Hell no. Excuse me, family. But Okay. So, and one of the reasons was they couldn't even, and I saw this and experienced this during the virtual schooling, they didn't even know how to teach my son basic addition. Okay. They were where he was at the time, they were starting with, some colored blocks or colored sticks and different things. And we were working with, your basic single digit numbers, 9 and below, especially 2 plus 4. Okay, let's count 2 blocks and then 4 blocks over here. All that counting on your fingers. That's where my son was. Okay. The primary problem of their inexperience and inability to teach my son being autistic was they didn't fully understand the gravity of the element of consistency. Most autistic kids, and specifically my son, learns best from consistency. Okay? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're working on with them, do it over and over, repetitively, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. When you get tired of doing it, do it some more. Okay? Keep doing the same level of work or type of work, at least in my son's case, until my son shows me and demonstrates to me a proficiency of getting the correct answer consistently or more consistently. Then that's the sign for me and my son where he is now ready to move to the next level of, in this case, addition that we were working on. Okay. So again, in the school system, they was working with my son doing 1 plus 3, 2 plus 2, all that, because that's exactly where my son was. He needed to start there, even though he was significantly older. But they basically, they didn't refuse, but they would not maintain consistency. Even in, for example, one day they're using blue colored sticks for him to count on in the right hand and orange colored sticks for him to count the second number in the left hand, right? Well, the next math problem he would do it, he would get the correct number. They would switch the stick, they would lay the sticks down and all that, and then pick them back up. And now the colors are in the opposite hands of what they were. They didn't understand. That's confusing to particularly my son and many autistic kids. You just changed something. You can't make those type of subtle changes. If blue's in the left hand, keep blue in the left hand the whole time. Orange is in the right hand, keep it in there. Don't make no subtle changes. Just, change the number of sticks, of how many blue sticks and how many orange sticks. Yeah, you do that, but no other changes. They could not. It was a problem. We was going at it. I'm like, y'all crazy. Anyway, so that's where my son was at. And ultimately, like I said, after the failed attempts that they were doing, I came to the decision. I was like, I have to homeschool my child. So for him to have a chance to move forward academically, I have to do it as his parent. And no, I didn't have no support of any kind from anybody. So I had to stop working too. Okay? So with that said, I want to share this little clip with you. Again, turn your sound up, your volume up. You'll hear it. Should be able to hear it pretty good, but I'll play it a few times. And I'm going to not talk so you can hear it, and then we'll continue. What's the next one?
12 plus 8.
What's 12 plus 8 equal?
10.
No. Use your abacus.
Use your hands?
No. Use your abacus. 12 plus 8.
10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yes. Great job. What's the next one?
12 plus 8.
What's 12 plus 8 equal?
10.
No. Use your abacus.
Use your hands.
No. Use your abacus. 12 plus 8.
10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yes. Great job. Okay, family. As you saw, remember, while my son was enrolled in the public school system here in Indianapolis, Indiana, they not only could not teach my son how to do basic single digit math, 2 plus 3 type math, they couldn't do that successfully. And ultimately, they told me, well, there are some things that special needs students are just not going to be able to learn. And in this case, your child is just not going to be able to learn it. So in other words, they said the problem in regards to learning basic single digit math was my child, not them. Like I said, that's what they normally do. They put that out, okay? When a special needs child is not learning whatever it is they're working on. The problem is the child, not them. Not they don't know what they're doing. Not they don't have a freaking clue of what they're doing. But the problem is the child. But as you saw in my clip, especially if you turn the sound up good where you can hear it well, one, you saw my child using an abacus. Yes, I taught my child the basic functions of how to use an abacus. Now, why is that? One, because while my child was enrolled and in person at the local school that we tried, and they were struggling teaching them basic math, and I kept going on about them doing it in a consistent fashion. One of the first questions that I asked them after they kept struggling was, do you guys have an abacus? Because an abacus, whatever color the beads are, whatever, it provides a consistent function or functionality and colors to be used. They're not going to change, which is what I was telling them they must have to even have a chance to teach my son basic math, single digit math, right? Their answer was, an abacus? No, we don't have one of them. I'm like, well, how are you teaching special needs students or special ed students basic math that need to learn and improve on their basic math skills? Well, we just do it our way, which was constantly changing the colors, the blocks, the sticks, the fingers, to switching everything around, and ultimately end up telling most parents their child is incapable of learning basic math, which you just saw. My son do a math problem of 12 plus 8 on his abacus without no help from me, and he got the correct answer. In fact, you saw my child, whom the local school system said could not learn basic math, I'm gonna replay it. Let's go through it real quick. I'm gonna replay it. Hold on. Let's go through it real quick. I'm gonna replay it. Here we go. Hope I got my sound fixed again and improved. But here we go. I'm gonna stop it and really point out what's happening here. Okay? What's the next one?
12 plus 8.
What's 12 plus 8 equal?
10.
No. Use your abacus.
Use your hands?
All right, right there. If you didn't hear it, my son said, use your hands. Why? Because me homeschooling my child, I had also begun to teach my child to do basic math, especially the small numbers, by counting on his fingers. Okay? I literally, if it's 2 plus 3, okay, he'll hold up and do the counting on his fingers. Hold up 2 fingers and do 3 on the other side, count them together, and boom, he got the right answer. I taught my child how to do that, not the so-called satanic, excuse me, but that's just how I feel about them, the demons at the school system. They didn't know how to do that. And it wasn't hard. You just got to do it, pick a way to do it, and be consistent with it. So now, at this point where my son was, that was an option for him in many cases, especially if he was adding 2 smaller single-digit numbers. Okay? But because I knew it's 12 plus 8, he ain't got enough fingers for that. You hear what I told him next. No, use your abacus. 12 plus 8. No, use your abacus. Because I also showed him and trained him how to basically use his abacus. The first line of the abacus has 10 beads on it, and everyone below. Not only did I, basically I taught him how to use it in a basic manner to where he could easily put 12. He would move the whole line of 10 over and then 2 more, make his 12. And then on the third line, he would move 8 over. And I taught him, he learned as I taught him, now just count what you got. And that's what you're going to hear him do.
10, 11,
10.
12.
Did you hear the 10? Then he said 11, 12. He has his 12. Now he's going to put his third number on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Now he has his 8. So now, as I taught him, he knows now he's just got to add it up or count it all together. Here we go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yes. This is a special needs and autistic student that the teachers at the school said could not even learn to do 2 plus 4 consistently. Again, family, I strongly suggest it's difficult to do, but it's not impossible to get set up. If you got the right information, you gather all your information, and you plan it out, and you are able to acquire, whether it's Section 8 housing or at least significantly lower housing that you'll be able to still afford based on what the income that you have or you and your child may have, things of that nature. And I did leave one thing off the list of needs I just thought of. You're gonna, in addition to these needs on your screen, family, if you're looking at doing this, you're gonna also have to already have your car paid off. You're not gonna be able to do this and still be able to afford a car payment. Okay? So ultimately, your expenses have to be reduced to the lowest possible level that you can get them to have a chance to be able to successfully do this. But if you do it, you can be successful at it just like I am. Okay? So there you have it, family. There, just wanted to provide some more information. There is another option. It's doable. It's going to be work. It's going to be tedious for a little bit until you get everything set up, but it's doable. You're going to have to relocate most likely. You cannot still have a car payment because you most likely ain't going to be able to afford a car payment anymore. At least not for a good long while. Okay? So there you have it, family. Y'all let me know about this in the chat, and we'll go from there. And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us. And as a part of the new Black media, B1 choices are mandatory, and being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.